Welcome friends in lecture 3 science lesson 8 motion. In today's lecture we are going to see the difference between speed and velocity. Now as far as speed is concerned, speed is basically the distance traveled in some unit time. So the distance traveled in unit time is called as in speed. Now the same thing, the velocity is slightly different, that is it is known by the displacement. Now the displacement is, as we have learned before, the displacement is from one initial point to the final point. We don't seem the path which has been followed. So if it is the shortest distance, we would say this is a displacement and it is directional full. So the velocity is the displacement of the body in unit time. Right now, as the speed is concerned, it is an scalar quantity, and as far as velocity is concerned, it is an vector quantity. The vector quantity and scalar quantity makes a difference of direction. The magnitudes are in both. In speed also the magnitude is taken for consideration, that is that is suppose in meters, so we take it in meters, but the direction is not important here. But in case of velocity, the direction is equally important as far as the magnitude is concerned. The speed can be 0 or positive, whereas in case of velocity, the velocity can be 0, positive and negative in 3 all. Now during the circular motion, when it is in the circular motion, the average speed of the object can never be 0 because it is traveling. So average speed I am talking about, the average speed of an object, if it is in motion, then it cannot be 0. But in case of velocity, if the object starts from certain point and come back to the same point, that means its displacement is basically 0, so its velocity also turns out to be 0. So every after complete one circle, the speed, average speed is never 0, but in case of velocity, the average velocity is always 0. The another is the units of them are both same, that is meter per second and kilometer per hour. Now the formula as speed is equals to distance upon time and velocity is equals to displacement upon time. Now average speed is equals to total distance traveled. Total distance traveled, that is distance 1, 2, 3, 4 in that particular unit time. Like distance traveled in suppose 5 meters in first second, then the distance traveled another suppose in the second it is been traveled as 7 meters, in the third second it may be traveled as 3 meters. So we have to consider all the distances in all the different times. So the total distance upon total time, s1 plus s2 plus s3 are the distance, and t1 plus t2 plus t3, whatever the number of times that you are taking as per the distance, will always be taken. That means this is how we take out in the terms of speed, average speed. Now in terms of velocity, it is always taken initial velocity and final velocity. So initial velocity plus final velocity divided by 2. Like initial velocity was 10 and final velocity was 20, so 10 plus 20 divided by 2 makes is 30 by 2, that will be 15. So mathematically we consider average velocity as initial velocity plus final velocity by 2. Second topic that we are taking is acceleration. So acceleration is basically measure of change in velocity. Now the change in velocity, that is again we have to take initial and final, two velocities we are supposed to take. So initial velocity and final velocity that we are taking per unit time, that is between these two velocities change, like 50 kilometers per hour and 10 meters per second and 20 meters per second, and what the time it took to change from 10 to 20, suppose it took 2 seconds of time. First initially it was for 10 meter per second, then the last time that we measure next time was 20 meter per second. So it is 20 minus 10 divided by 2. That means every second the change was 5 meter per second. So this is how we need to consider. So acceleration can be caused either by the change in direction also or change in motion, that is speed. So the direction, if the direction is changing, then the velocity is changing, though speed is constant, right? The speed is like in moving in a circular motion, the speed is constant, but the direction as you are changing, that means the velocity is basically changing because of the change in the direction. Other way is the speed is also changing with respect to direction. The speed is also changing, that means its velocity is also changing basically with respect to direction. So acceleration is equals to, according to the formula, acceleration is equals to change in velocity with respect to time taken, whatever the time that has been taken. And the formula is alphabetically taken as a is equals to final velocity v minus initial velocity u upon time taken as t, right. Its unit is meter per second square. It is a vector quantity, as we have mentioned before, because the direction is very important in this with respect to magnitude. It can be taken as acceleration can be taken as positive if we are moving along the velocity. That means the direction of the velocity, like you are driving a bike and your velocity is increasing and you are increasing with respect to direction of the velocity, that means your acceleration is positive, your acceleration is increasing, that means it will be positive. Now in case of when you apply the brakes in a car, suppose, that means what is happening, that your velocity is in forward direction but your acceleration is in your reverse direction, that means you are trying to stop going on the backward side. So here your acceleration will be counted as negative, and this type of acceleration which is counted as negative is called as a deceleration. When you increase the velocity in forward, it is always positive, and when you decrease the velocity with respect to direction that you are moving, then it turns to negative, because the final velocity will be less than the initial velocity. Like you are moving with 5 meter per second, then the next velocity is 3 meter per second, that means it will be 3 minus 5, that will be minus 2 upon suppose 1 second of time it is. So minus 2 it turns out to be deceleration. Whereas if it is you are moving with 3 meter per second and then you increase to 5, so 5 minus 3, it will be 2 per second of time. So this will be in the positive form. Fine. So I hope so you understood about acceleration. We will keep up till here in today's lecture and start with the another next time. Thank you.